The Gujarat riots have already seen the conviction of 140 people, one of them a former minister. So what's the difference? Is an SIT, a special investigative team, the answer as the Akalis and some other jurists are demanding? We'll debate that tonight. But first, the headlines. About what happened in 1984, horrific accounts of the way murdering mobs went about on a killing spree. For those who were witness to it, memories of 28 years ago are as fresh as ever. After numerous commissions, probes, and a CBI investigation, nothing much has come out. But the Akalis have now got a new demand. They say since there were special investigation teams looking into the Gujarat riots, there should also be one for the 84 riots.
A mob started gathering. They had those iron rods and lathis and whatnot. They started breaking all the window panes and whatever. Started torching our house also. और हम अपने गली में भाग रहे हैं and they are after us. Everything was haywire. I don't know कौन कहाँ भागा. दो रो ऑफ हाउसेस के बीच में एक टॉयलेट था कॉमन सा. जो नज़र आया वहाँ पे जाके I just hid myself. I could hear the voices of my brothers. छत पे भाग रहे थे उनके पीछे and my brother, elder brother was crying, अंकल हमने आपका क्या बिगाड़ा, हमने आपका क्या बिगाड़ा, आप हमको क्यों मार रहे हैं. They were torched, the three of them. I think tire डाल के.
We saw that incident of that man being burnt. I saw the tire around his neck and firing and screaming. And these police vehicles were moving up and down. Why couldn't they stop? The apathy, the indifference. Their leader was a political leader because he carried a lot of clout. There were no urchins, surprisingly. There were no urchins. I could see the person who was leading the mob. We had seen on Doordarshan and we had seen on, he was a local big shot.
Almost 3 decades after the 1984 anti-Sikh riots, the cries still ring out for many. It is estimated that at the height of the carnage in 1984, one Sikh was being killed every minute on the streets of the national capital. The Sikhs maintain that enough has not been done and justice still eludes the community. The figures speak for themselves. While more than 8,000 Sikhs were killed across the country, out of which 3,000 were massacred in the capital during the 2 days of violence, only 30 people in 12 murder cases have been convicted so far. Of the 10 different commissions and committees set up after the riots, 72 police officers were identified for connivance and gross negligence. 30 of them were recommended to be sacked, but no action was taken. Finally, in 2005, the CBI charged Sajjan Kumar and 5 others for inciting violence, a case still dragging on in the courts. Then there is Congress leader Jagdish Tytler, who had been let off by the CBI for lack of evidence for his role in the 1984 riots, while lawyers are challenging this in court. Tytler was seen leading a charge in a rally organized by the Congress in Odisha in September this year. During the mob clashes with the police, this lady officer was badly hurt. While Tytler later apologized for the injuries suffered by the policewoman, the opposition accused him of trying to recreate the violence of 1984.
Till now, there was no setup like this, and all the investigation was done by the Delhi police. Delhi police, which is itself an accused in the. So this is virtually the people who are accused of the violence. They are investigating this.
3 SITs were set up for Gujarat. Then why is Punjab forgotten? Just because Sikhs are a small minority? They don't constitute a major vote bank? Is that the reason? We will not give up till justice is given. We are very clear on that. And whether it's going to Parliament, whether it's going to the courts, we shall not give up.
Known for their resilience, many of the Sikh families affected in the riots have rebuilt their lives. And while elders in the community continue to fight for justice, the younger generation says that it's equally important for them not to forget what happened.
Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. No. It's all, whatever is done, it's an oil wash. Nothing has been done.
People say compensation has been paid.
What compensation? A family who has lost 11 men of their family, they've been paid 250 rupees. What compensation? And can any compensation can accommodate a living person? No.
Do you feel that there is still a scope for a lot of change? Things can happen? Are you hopeful that...
I'm hopeful, yes, definitely. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But a lot of majority is with us. Not only the Sikhs, the Hindu majority is also with us. Many people come. They were not the Hindu Sikh riots. They were the Sikh and state riots. The genocide organized by the state. So, yes, we have hope.
In New Delhi, Siddharth Pandey for NDTV.
So that's what we are asking. After all these years, 28 years later, will a special investigating team help deliver justice? Our guest today from the Shiromani Akali Dal Party, we have Naresh Gujral, Rajya Sabha MP, we have Jay Narayan Vyas of the Gujarat government, Javed Anand, activist, co-editor of Communalism Combat, KTS Tulsi, he's from the Law Commission. We have H.S. Phoolka, who's written a book on the riots and he has been campaigning and fighting for the riot victims. And Dr. Radha Kumar, who was part of the Citizens Forum at that time in 1984, just after the riots happened. Now she's, of course, director of a policy group. Mr. Naresh Gujral, if I can start with you. You know, we've seen so many commissions. Our story also mentioned that this time we've seen so many commissions. We've seen a CBI probe. They've all gone into it. The problem with the latest probe, what came out of the latest probe, which was the CBI probe, was that they said that many of the witnesses had died. They had also said that there wasn't any evidence left. Why is it that you think that a special investigating team now can help?
CBI is an arm of the government, and unfortunately we have seen time and again how the Congress government has been misusing CBI. I don't think the Sikh community will get justice from CBI, and I think it's high time that, like Gujarat, directly under the Supreme Court, a special investigation be launched under a retired Chief Justice. Only then will there be some hope.
Okay, so you're saying that just because the CBI was set up, a CBI inquiry was during the UPA regime, you don't believe in that. But isn't it also true that
because we have seen their track record. We have seen how serious or non-serious they have been. It's a matter of national shame that even after 28 years, not one prominent leader, and everybody in Delhi knows who they are, not one of them has been brought to book.
Okay, so you don't trust the CBI. I just want to ask Mr. Phoolka over here, weren't there during the BJP regime, because of course a lot of the Congress leaders have been accused in this, but during the BJP regime, weren't there commissions at that time which were they able to come out with, you know, findings or evidence which could have helped the probe?
You see, the Nanavati Commission was appointed during the BJP government.
Yes.
The report of the Nanavati Commission came, but Nanavati Commission confined its findings only to few individuals. I mean, he recommended the case against Titler, Sajjan Kumar, Dharmdas Shastri and H.K. Bhagat, but he was insane by that time. But as far as the others, the normal accused who are at the lower level or even at the middle level, he didn't go into that. I mean, after holding, that was our grievance. In fact, I wrote an article after that. It was disappointing that after holding such a inquiry for few years, after that the findings are only against a few leaders and not against the middle rank or against the lower rank people.
So the Nanavati commissions, which was appointed by the BJP government, even there was, and of course they stopped short.
No, but
what we reported was they stopped short of actually naming.
Commission can only recommend the registration of cases. The investigation is again done by the investigating agency. Now in this case, it was given to the CBI. Now what has done? The CBI has found out that the Delhi police has fabricated the documents to help Sajjan Kumar. This is the finding of the CBI. And the CBI has found out that certain documents or very material record is missing from the files, just with a view to help Sajjan Kumar. And what the Delhi police does, In October, the investigation transferred in October 2005 to the CBI. After that, Delhi police had no jurisdiction, but in December, Delhi police gave clean sheet to the Sajjan Kumar and filed closure report in the court.
That's right.
When this matter came to the notice of the court, Justice Vipin Sanghi of Delhi High Court has passed severe strictures against the CBI. Because Sajjan Kumar went and said, I have been given clean sheet by the CBI. Justice Sanghi said they had no jurisdiction to do so. When in October the matter is transferred, after that they had no business.
Right.
And he directed the police commissioner that you hold an inquiry and punish the guilty police officers. Now that is the direction in July 2010.
Okay.
Till today, nothing has been done. So this very CBI has investigated only 4 cases.
Right.
Throughout, I mean all 2,733
particular
murders
ones against
and 7,000 murders throughout country.
Okay.
Only 4 cases investigated by the CBI.
They registered 10.
Or they registered 10.
Yes.
But after that, ultimately action is only in 4.
Right.
But in all other cases, I mean, out of 7,000 throughout the country, they are done by the local police.
Yes.
And in most of the cases, the allegation is against the local police itself. That the local police was very much part of the mob. They not only remained silent spectators, they actively participated in the killings. So the same very people against whom there are allegations, I mean, the same very people are the investigating agency.
Okay.
So that is the reason.
Mr. Phoolka, may I add, I would like to add here that in the case of Mr. Sajjan Kumar, even after CBI wanted to prosecute him, the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi would not give permission. And it is when we brought this matter in Parliament and we did not let the House function, only then did the Home Minister agree that he would direct the Lieutenant Governor to give permission.
Okay, the only thing that I'm asking is, do you think this demand is a bit late now? Do you think what concrete thing will come out of this? May I?
What do you mean by late? I'm sorry, what do you mean by late?
No, as in evidence. Is there evidence?
Has justice been given?
No, you see, there are no doubt that most of the accused have died, most of the witnesses have also died. But this is precisely what we are saying. That this is the time, this is still the time. It's not the proper time, but still the time.
There is still time, even 28
something could be done.
Okay.
Otherwise, after a few years, this will go, blot will remain on the name of this black spot will remain on the name of the country.
Okay.
That nothing was done, such a large massacre took place.
Okay,
So
that's what I'm asking. What can come out of the SIT? You know, can you still get evidence out of it? And you
yes,
believe that it can?
Yes, there
Mr.
are witnesses still alive.
Okay, Mr. KTS Tulsi, everyone cited, you know, we brought out the figures, and what's really, we've seen a lot of justice being done. We've seen more than 140 people being convicted in the 2002 riots. But in 84 riots, less than 30, and so many, 2,500 or more, almost 3,000 people killed. Why couldn't the Law Commission do anything? You're a member of the Law Commission. Why hasn't it been more proactive in pushing through things, urging people, the government, to set up an inquiry, to set up an SIT?
You see, Law Commission only deals with the matters that are referred to it. But I want to say that nothing demonstrates more about the collapse of the criminal justice system in this country than the worst riots which took place after independence in India. 7,000 people killed nationwide, and we have nothing to show with regard to any convictions or justice being done.
Sir, I may point out this was not a riot. It was a one-sided thing. It was not a riot. It was a massacre of the innocent people by a political party.
No, you are right. It is in fact one-sided entirely, where the Sikhs were the victims, and it is nothing less than genocide. I would say that, and this was not spontaneous. This was all engineered.
Yes.
This was pre-planned. This was aided and abetted by the police, which is supposed to protect the citizen. And that is why we are not getting any justice. But I want to say that in India there have been more than 250 riots since independence. And that's the story of almost every riot. Except that when the Supreme Court invented this procedure of a
that's not the story of every riot, because obviously we are seeing some kind of, recently we also saw a former minister in the Gujarat government being convicted, given a life term in a riots case. So obviously in that case they are getting, everyone hasn't got justice yet, but they're still in the process of getting justice. So why is it that the 84 riots have been forgotten?
The difference is that the Supreme Court has realized that these riots are becoming such a common phenomena where the state is becoming party to engineering riots instead of dispensing justice, and that if you leave it to the governments which are in fact engineering riots, there will be no justice.
Supreme Court initiative in 2002 is the difference. That's what you're saying? Supreme Court,
that's exactly what I'm saying. The Supreme Court realized and then used the strategy of a continuing writ of mandamus, which was invented by Justice Verma in Jain Hawala case, and then applied that remedy. Now this is actually a continuing process where the courts realize that there is a collapse of criminal justice system and something drastic needs to be done. It is the National Human Rights Commission which filed a petition directly in the Supreme Court,
NHRC,
challenging the acquittal of all these people by the Gujarat court, and all those persons were being prosecuted where the witnesses were being goaded by the prosecutors appointed by the state. So the Supreme Court realized that there is going to be no justice. Unfortunately, this realization did not come at a prior time when the 84 riots took place or 84 genocide took place.
Okay, I get the point that you've been trying to make, but Javed Anand, why aren't we seeing that kind of initiative that we saw in the 2002? What's the difference here?
Before I respond to your question, may I first say that I salute. You're asking me, Javed?
Yes, yes. Go ahead, Mr. Javed.
Yeah. To begin with, I wish to salute every single victim survivor of 1984 and everyone who's fighting alongside them for justice. As a person, the gentleman said a few minutes ago, it was not a riot, just as 2002 was not a riot. It was a communal carnage, one-sided, state condoned or state sponsored in these two cases. That is point number one. Point number two, I still remember what Mr. Phoolka said in 2009, 25 years after the massacre of Sikhs in Delhi and elsewhere in the country, that had there been justice for the victims of 1984, there would not have been the anti-Muslim pogrom of 92-93 in Mumbai. Had there been justice there, there would not have been 2002 Gujarat. So we've had this culture of impunity that has been the law, the practice. Not the law says something else, but this has been the reality on the ground. And the worst example and the most shameful example of this is 1984. Fortunately, for the first time in 2002, the Supreme Court, I think, as a gentleman said a minute ago, kind of woke up to its responsibility, I would say, constitutional duty, and said that they would monitor the justice process this time. So, one, it is a Supreme Court, not the Sikh so much as a Supreme Court, and two, activists on the ground who have kept over 500 victim survivors and their morale intact. It is this combination from the reality of the preparedness on at the grassroots level and the Supreme Court at the apex that we are seeing the justice process in Gujarat. Otherwise, the Gujarat government, the Gujarat police, I mean, how can the accused be investigators and you expect any justice? This is what has happened in 1984. And this is what was being attempted in 2002 in Gujarat as well. Thankfully, the Supreme Court intervened.
Okay, so
that is where the difference lies.
My question to people like KTS Tulsi and HS Phoolka over here will be, why hasn't that initiative then, if the courts are the ones that stepped in, why haven't we seen that happen in the 84 riots case? But before that, just because you're mentioning the Gujarat government and the SIT has also, when Mr. Naresh Gujarat spoke, when he spoke to my colleague as well in that story, he said everyone's citing the case of Gujarat. So Mr. Jainarayan Vyas, how would you respond to the fact that they're all saying that it's only because of the Supreme Court stepping in that the state police wouldn't have been able to handle or deliver justice in that riots case? You needed an SIT.
So let me be very clear. What are we discussing tonight? Are we discussing Gujarat and Delhi?
We are talking about the need of the SIT.
Parts where somebody feels justice was done,
we are talking about the need of the SIT.
Was not done.
We are talking about the need of the SIT. That's what we are talking about.
I understand.
And how the SIT has perhaps delivered justice to lots of victims in Gujarat. That's what we are discussing.
Sumitra ji, I have a reasonable knowledge of English to understand you.
Yeah, okay.
I understand what you are saying.
Clarifying.
What I am trying to tell you is that if you are talking 250 riots in India and you are talking still that this was done proper in Delhi case, this was not done proper in Gujarat case. We are discussing cases in isolation. My personal belief is nobody in right sense of mind would justify any kind of a genocide or any kind of an assault of this kind which results into the loss of life and limb. Let me be very clear about that. Now,
fair.
having said this, shall we today or shall we debate on the issue that riots in this country are least witnessed, least studied and still less understood? We don't talk about remedies at all. Do you have a remedy after so many riots that you are talking about, 250 riots? Do you have a blueprint of action that to prevent riots or to sort of say that the riots do not occur in future? These are the lessons learned, and therefore the country should go in this direction, and this is what needs to be done. Every time we have a riot, somewhere somebody has failed. Either
So we're
the
not
passions
here. Okay, so I just want to clarify. We're not of course here to give lessons on what should be done. That's of course for policy makers and other people to do. We're just asking the question of is SIT, which is being demanded right now in another case, they're citing because Gujarat riots is the one which got SIT. Is SIT the answer? That's all we are asking. So I'm just asking you, since the Akalis have cited your case, how do you respond to the fact that they're citing the instance of Gujarat where SITs have delivered justice? How do you respond to that? That's it. That's all I'm asking.
See, the issue is this: the issue is not delivering a penicillin injection when there is a disease. The issue is, why don't you have a system? Why have you to have SITs, and how many SITs you will have, and how many times you will have the SIT? Sooner the SIT will also become irrelevant. There will be accusations. There are already some voices which are today pointing fingers towards when SITs functions. So how many SITs you are going to have? Why the country doesn't have a system which takes care of itself and which assures that any individual, any citizen in this country is assured the safety and security?
Okay.
Why don't you have a system?
Okay.
How many SITs you are going to have?
Fine. That's a point that you've made. Dr. Radha Kumar, as someone, I was just reading Amitav Ghosh's piece, his piece of his experience, what happened, and he mentions you and all the other people who got together, all the other activists who got together as part of a citizens forum, and that you brought out a report as well of what happened and who's guilty. Now, as someone who was there, who helped, who was part of the healing process as well afterwards, how must it feel to know that so many years later, not many have been held accountable?
Well, to tell you the truth, we were all outraged at the fact that there were no proper investigations, that there was no attempt made to deliver justice to certainly what was the most horrendous experience of my life, and shattered my faith, to tell you the truth, in the constitutional structure and practice of our country. I would agree with Javed that all those who have fought for the past 28 years to get recognition of what happened then, and then to talk about the need for justice, are people we have to salute. I would even go further. I would say that the various groups, both in the courts and amongst citizens, who kept the memory alive, are those who are partly responsible for the kind of change that we saw occurring post-2002, when the Supreme Court did step in a way in which neither the courts nor anyone else stepped in earlier. But if there's one lesson to be learned from this, I would say we really need to ask our political parties very, very seriously that how is it that they are able to condone such terrible events which are related partly to their own politics and their own actions and behavior. When are we going to see that process of reform within the political parties? It is, after all, really a tragedy that the Supreme Court had to step in to start getting justice for the victims of the Gujarat carnage. And that too, that process has started 10 years after. It's a terrible, terrible indictment of our polity. and of our governments. And it seems to me that we do have to talk about serious policy prescriptions, that when such things happen, somebody must pay. Those who are responsible must pay, not only in terms of justice, but in terms of giving back, atoning for what you have done.
Yes.
And we don't see that spirit of atonement anywhere.
Well,
And
you know,
I
I would
would
have
say
loved to
that,
put I would have
when you
loved to
talk
put your question of this
compensation, the idea-
politicization that we've seen and the kind of politics that people play with the riots to the Congress, but unfortunately no one from the Congress was willing to participate in this debate today. But Javed, I'd just like to throw that to you as well. Do you think that part of the problem has been that everyone kind of clubs 84 and 2002 together, and both the Congress and the BJP and all the other political parties just use it for their political convenience to make a political point against each other?
Quite clearly so. I mean, the Congress must explain why there has not been justice in 1984 for the massacre of the Sikhs, for the victim survivors. There is no question that the Congress must account for that just as much as the BJP must account for what happened in Gujarat 2002 and how they've been trying to derail the justice process ever since. And I think the question that I quite agree with, entirely agree with Radha, what she was saying is that in terms of long-term solutions, what we need is what activists like us and many other groups and religious minorities have been arguing for is a communal violence prevention and punishment bill, where there is the notion of the chain of command responsibility. So when a riot is not contained, we are not talking about riots, I'm sorry, we're talking about carnages and pogroms and genocidal killings. When they're not contained within 24 hours or whatever it is not just the sub-inspector of police or a police constable in a street, but the police commissioner and the home minister and the DGP of the state are held accountable and are made to pay for it.
Okay, but that's perhaps in the long run of having, you know, changing laws.
Well, I would go a little further than that, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would not talk about a new bill. I would talk about the need, for example, for other political parties.
Okay, we'll just fix Radha Kumar's audio over there. But
guilty of such carnage. I would say the parties have to pay compensation themselves, not the citizens.
Okay, that's an idea. But Naresh Gujral,
you have to create a new political culture. We should not vote for parties that engage in carnage or violence or breaking the law.
I was going to ask Naresh Gujral as well, but Mr. Phoolka,
ultimately this boils down to the fact that you must have the lessons learned and the remedies which will prevent riots. You know, prevention is better than cure is the theory that would hold good here. We have not learnt any lessons out of 250 riots, and we are taking bits and pieces and discussing issues. Rather than that, we should have a policy which itself will be such that it will prevent recurrence of these kind of incidences.
Okay, and Mr. Naresh Gujral, actually Mr. Jainarayan Vyas completely disses and completely rejects the theory that SIT helps. How would you respond to him?
Well, I don't agree, because if SITs did not help, then 800 people would not have been convicted in Gujarat.
No, let me clarify. I'm sorry for interruption. Let me clarify. I am not saying SIT doesn't help. I am saying how many times you are going to have SITs. A penicillin injection given time and again will turn the patient immune. That's the point I was trying to make. I don't say SIT has not done its job. It's doing its job.
Okay. Mr. Naresh Gujral, so how will you get this SIT set up?
No, however, it will be with the help of media. Today, if Gujarat has received the attention that it deserved, I would say that it's thanks to the media, and especially the electronics media. Unfortunately, when the 1984 carnage took place, the electronic media was not so strong. In fact, that is one of the reasons why we did not get enough support. I said in Parliament, Gujarat and what happened in 84 are two sides of the same coin. We want justice to be given in both cases. And I think there's only one way. We have to hunt down every single culprit, whether it was in Gujarat or those responsible for the 84 riots, and give them exemplary punishment. Only then can you stop riots in the future.
Okay, and you know,
For that, an SIT is absolutely necessary.
Okay, Mr. KTS, yeah.
If I may point it out, the demand of the SIT is not initiated by the Akali Dal. They have, I think, only adopted it. This demand was initiated by the legal remedies. A letter is written by Justice Krishna to the Prime Minister, which is written about 3 weeks back.
Okay.
And that is supported by Fali Nariman, Shanti Bhushan, Justice Sachar, and the people like Kuldeep Nair and many, many more.
Prominent citizens.
Prominent citizens and the lawyers and prominent. But only forming SIT will not solve a problem, because now almost all the cases have been closed by police. So in that letter, what is that the cases which the police have closed?
By police? If they form an SIT, can't they still probe
That
them?
is what the main thing is. The demand of Justice Krishna's letter to the Prime Minister is that the cases which have been closed by the police, they should be reopened.
Okay.
The way it was done in Gujarat.
Okay, sure.
Under the Supreme Court
For
order.
instance, Bilkis Bano case and other cases. Okay.
Yes, they are the cases which are closed by the police itself. Not sent for trial, number one, that should be reopened. Then second category is that the cases where those sent for trial, but the police did not produce eyewitnesses at all.
Yeah.
There are a number of cases of 84 where the police didn't produce eyewitnesses at all.
Okay.
And on that account, the accused were acquitted. So they are the
So
cases.
there is still some evidence you're saying that's left which can be probed.
That is a lot of evidence. When these cases are reopened and for the investigation of these cases, and SIT is necessary, and SIT demand is that SIT should be formed by drawing the officers from outside Delhi police.
Outside Delhi
police. If it is done by Delhi police, then there is no use of doing that exercise.
Okay,
again.
but perhaps you need political will or some initiative to do that. And Mr. KTS Tulsi, you know, do you think there is the will to do that? Because we've seen even people who've been indicted. Jagdish Titler was also indicted by the Nanavati Commission.
Yes.
And so was Sajjan Kumar. Sajjan Kumar has in fact been named in FIRs as well. But we've seen all of them very, very politically active. Jagdish Titler, as the story showed, was very active in what happened in Orissa, on demonstrations in Orissa. Sajjan Kumar was denied a ticket, but his brother was given a ticket. So is there political will to do something?
No, I don't think so. I think that if justice could not be delivered to the victims of the 84 carnage, it is because all parties across the spectrum which have been in power in the center, and all these parties which have been in power in different states, perhaps use the carnages to their electoral advantages. And therefore, even when there was Janata Party government or there was a BJP government, they did nothing to secure justice for the Sikhs who were victims of this carnage. No one is interested. No one is interested. The political class is just not interested, even in Gujarat. In Gujarat, if the Supreme Court had not so strongly intervened, it would have gone the same way.
Is it up to the Supreme Court now?
It is up to the Supreme Court. I think it's a very valuable suggestion made by Justice Krishna Iyer. And whatever little justice we have got, 30 convictions, they are only because of the tireless efforts of Mr. Phoolka, who has all these years spearheaded the movement for securing justice for the Sikhs. And if that was also not there, there would have been no convictions at all. Police is not interested, prosecution is not interested, and all these cases would have gone by the wayside. Even now, the cases can be reopened. The Supreme Court has created a precedent in Best Bakery case by directing re-investigation even after acquittal.
Right.
So if that is done, I'm sure perhaps there is still a ray of hope that although belated, we may still secure some justice.
Mr. Phoolka, actually, you know, we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask, a lot of people say that people have moved on. The Sikh community has moved on. It's been 28 years. The young weren't there, so they don't remember. What would you say, speaking for the community, as someone who actually was a victim of the riots as well?
It is not a Sikh issue at all. Right from very beginning, right from 1984, we have been saying it's not a Sikh issue. And this fight was carried on by the people like Justice Sikri, Justice Tarkunde, and Solis Rabji. And so this is not a Sikh issue, it's a question of the future of the nation. Like Javed had pointed out, if the guilty of 84 were rewarded, that's the reason it happened in Gujarat. and it's happened in Mumbai. Now you see what's happening in Assam.
So it's about protecting our future.
Nobody is safe, and do not
And
think
only
it is only the religious minorities who will be targeted.
Sunitra,
It will be, you do not know when not only the religious minorities, when the regional minorities, what is happening in Mumbai? Look at that.
Yes.
I mean, the regional minorities, sometimes the linguistic minorities. Nobody is safe if a clear message is not sent that this kind of a mob frenzy is not permitted in this country.
Okay,
no one is safe.
So, okay, you wanted to add
Yes,
to that?
Sunitra.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Tulsi.
Can I say one thing?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, all that I want to say is that the only way of preventing these riots is to award exemplary punishment to the perpetrators of these crimes. And if we don't do that, they will continue to reoccur, and hundreds and thousands of people will continue to fall victims to the machinations of the politicians.
And Javed Anand, as someone who's seen a lot of this, you've seen the way SIT say, do you think in this case there's still hope for the 84 riots victims so many years later?
Well, as some of the people already have said that they're not quite sure that there is no political will, but if I may make a practical suggestion, the electronic media was not there in 1984, but you are there today in 2012. And if the media could do something to kind of did something to make Anna Hazare a national figure and corruption a national issue, why can't the media do something to revive the question of justice for 1984?
Well,
amplify the demand of Justice Krishna Iyer and the justices and so on. If this issue is kind of highlighted properly, repeatedly over the next 2-3 weeks, I think the political will have to follow. But the thing is that we can't
set up the SIT, and it's for the NHRC, it's for the Supreme Court to do. And
what
we
can mobilize the public opinion?
You can help create the climate
which will matter.
Well, we really hope that those who matter, those who do take those decisions, are watching, and they do something for all those victims of the 1984 riots. To all our guests this evening, Naresh Gujral, Jay Narayan Vyas, Javed Anand, KTS Tulsi, and Radha Kumar, thanks very much for joining us, and Mr. H.S. Phoolka, of course, thanks very much for joining us. Still ahead, we'll have some of the other news of the day, including all those major allegations that have been thrown against the Congress President and Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Stay tuned.